Do you love the survival shows but not the drama? Do you ever wonder if the skills they show are for real? Come with Justin Wolf and Larry Roberts as they show what it takes to really do what they show on TV. Watch them as they act out different scenarios and show you the common mistakes most people make when faced with the tough choices you can be faced with when all does not go as planned in the wild.
Hello, and welcome to another edition of Clothed and Confident. Beautiful day out today. It's got to be at least 40. I think it was 2 weeks ago it was like negative 22. Now it's like 40. I'm baking in this pullover. I need to shed this clothes. I wore this thing out here for a reason, and I'll share that with you in just a second. I'm in a spot that I don't normally camp at. I have a couple of chosen spots. I decided to maybe shake things up a little bit. The reason primarily that I wouldn't camp here normally is because of the lack of resources right here. Normally, specifically the lack of downed firewood. I'll take a little bit of time and try to go find some, but the premise behind this video was going to be go to a pet store with $20 and see what you can get to survive for a night. Now, surviving for a night's not that big a deal. It's not that hard. We waited till now because it's a little nicer in my particular area. Like I said, it's going to be about 40 today, maybe even 50. And I'm not sure what the low is going to be, probably around 30 or something like that. So, not bringing out any kind of blanket or anything like that. I'm going to have to rely on a fire, and so that's why I brought that. That's why I brought that pullover, the boreal shirt. So anyway, I tried to go to a pet store and find as much stuff as I could. I kind of spaced it when I was in the city, and I got kind of closer to my house and swung into a little pet store. There was nothing. I mean, there was some expensive aquariums, there was some fish. I struck out. So instead, in the same little north of that city, there is a farm store that I go to all the time. That's where I go and get my corn. When I had animals, that's where I bought my feed. So I went to that store, to the feed store, the farm store. The premise was to take $20 and purchase as many things as you can to try to survive a night. So let me reset up the camera and I'll show you what I bought. Okay, this is the stuff I was able to get at my farm store. I was actually quite surprised at how much stuff they had there. It's not like I scoped out the store before I did this. I was kind of running out of options. A hardware store would have had everything that you needed. But this farm store, I was really surprised. First thing I found was a tarp, and I was actually a little bit surprised at this tarp that they had it. I was hoping I'd find some plastic. I did find some huge rolls of plastic, but they were really expensive. So anyway, I got an 8x10 regular tarp. Let me see how much that was. I think that was like $6. The tarp was $5.99, so yep, $6. All right, a dog dish. Now, they had a container there that was pretty sweet. It was like a pail, stainless steel pail, and had a pour spout on it. It was a quart size. I had that in my shopping cart for quite a while. The only problem is I could not find a cutting tool. Now, to be honest, I don't think I really need a cutting tool for this, but I wanted to experiment with maybe some bedding and stuff like that, so I kind of wanted a cutting tool. It was real hard for me to decide, but anyway, the pail was a little bit too much money for me to spend on that and my cutting tool. So anyway, here's my container. Let's see here, that container was $2.19. I got some twine. They had a lot of different twines there. Some of it was jute, just a lot of different stuff. I really like this nylon twine. It's nylon, which I really like. It's got a pretty high tensile strength. I would imagine it's got to be at least like a 50-pound tensile strength. I don't know, it doesn't say on there, maybe I'll be able to see. But I especially wanted it this diameter in case I wanted to set up any primitive traps. Let's see what that twine was. The twine, and it was all about the same price as far as the twine. It was that was actually kind of expensive, $6.39 for the twine. These are a little bit hard to find nowadays. Strike Anywhere matches. That's kind of a score. I'm going to use those, you know, obviously after this for my fireplace and stuff like that. The matches were super cheap. I could have got this or a whole bunch of packs of little Strike Anywhere matches, but I decided to go with the bigger ones. The matches were only $1.79. And then lastly, this was really the only cutting tool I could find. They didn't have razor knives. They had super expensive, like Chinese engraved pocket knife type things, so they were, you know, super expensive, being like, you know, 15, 20 bucks, and you know, our limit was $20. So I've got this hoof knife. The only bummer is well, I guess it's going to work out for me because it's kind of a right-handed deal, I think. But anyway, I decided to go ahead and get a cutting tool. Otherwise, like I said, I could have got that pail, which would have been a pretty sweet container. So alright, there we go. I was 68 cents over my limit, but the government, of course, got me for $1.33, so I'm thinking that's within the limit. My go-to tarp setup is usually the plow point. I don't like the lean-to, simply because in my state, in my area, it seems like the wind swirls a lot, so it can be blowing out of the north like all day long, and then all of a sudden, in the blink of an eye, it'll switch around and all of a sudden be blown out of the west or the east or something like that. It always happens the times I've tried it. I'm in my lean-to setup, I'm all cozy, and all of a sudden the wind starts doing a crossways thing at me and just chills me. So I'm going to experiment with something different than a plow point, but I definitely want some wing walls on it. I'm going to set up right here. I'm going to kind of maybe clean up some of this brush a little bit, maybe use that hoof knife or whatever. I've got a huge pile of deer scat right there. Before I kick it away, I'm going to show it to you. It must be a pretty good sized deer. But anyway, southeast is the way I'm going to face my opening. Look at the size of that scat there. Anyway, I want that out of there. Stainless steel, made in China. I know you're not supposed to baton with it, but I cut one tree down, one sapling down. I forgot I still got my belt knife on. I'm not using it, but I just always carry it, so maybe if I go back to the house I'll take it off or something. Well, it's it's pretty ugly. I wasted some cordage, you know, figuring it out, deciding what I wanted to do. It's not exactly like what I wanted. It's pretty close. It's got some good wing walls on it. I got to stake it down. I'm just kind of sharpening this stick up to make a stake with. The wing walls are pretty good. I wish I would have had enough for an under vapor barrier on the bottom, but I kind of figured with this setup I wouldn't. I'm just going to try and get enough grass and leaves and stuff to make it good. Okay, I'm just going to kind of take you around this shelter here real quick. This took me quite a bit longer than what I had hoped, but you know, I was just kind of practicing with it. Never done this one before. The wind's kicking up a little bit. That's the garbage from the tarp stuff. The tarp came in. There's one thing I need to do to this. I just staked it out in the back, kind of some random tie-offs. There's one thing I need to do with this, and as you can see, when the wind blows, it really sucks the middle in. I'm going to get another stick, semi-long one, and make a middle support right there. I don't really have to tie it off too much, maybe just a little bit on top there so it doesn't slide left to right, but I think that's going to help bow the top out, give me a lot more space in there. Okay, so my thoughts so far. Am I using the cutting tool? Absolutely. Did I 100% need it? Not really. Cutting that string, this nylon string is unraveling incredibly fast. As soon as I cut it, it unravels, so I have to tie a knot in both ends. If I had a small fire going right now, I could totally just use that fire to melt those ends and to cut my cordage. The only thing that I really kind of needed it for was building this framework, but I didn't need this framework. There's a lot of other options out there to make a framework for a shelter like this, so I really didn't need the cutting tool so far. The string's held up pretty good. It may look like I've used a lot, but I've probably only used, well, I suppose I've used 20, 30, probably 30 feet, you know. So on a spool that, and I threw the thing away, I forgot how many feet's on there. I'll look at it again. I think it's like 220 or 330 feet, something like that. So that's quite a bit of cordage. And I'm not afraid to cut my cordage. It was like $3 for that roll. I mean, if I was in a situation where they never made string ever again, I guess I'd be a little more careful with it, but I'm not really that concerned about it. So, all right, I've been at this for a couple hours or so, I think, just kind of going real slow. I think now what I'm going to try to do is find some bedding, because all of our snow is melted, the ground is still frozen, so it's not allowing that snow melt to 100% soak into the ground, so everything is very, very moist. So if I move any of these leaves at all, it's wet in the ground. It's going to be a miserable night sleeping on the ground, first of all, if I didn't have any padding. Second of all, wet ground. So I need to go to the swamp maybe and grab some swamp grass. Okay, I think I have enough grass there, so I would say, I'll do a far away shot before I sit down in it, but I say good 2 feet probably uncompressed. And one thing about this, harvesting this grass, you guys probably know this and everything, but even being careful, you're going to get a little bit of a cut. And Rich from Around the Cabin, the last episode we did, mentioned that cutting it with your knife will make your knife dull very quickly. And he's right, my hoof knife is getting kind of dull, but you have to kind of weigh the consequences as to whether or not you want cut fingers or if it's cool to sharpen your knife, you know what I mean? So that's just a decision you have to make by yourself. This is the plastic bag that the tarp came in, and I should have thought about this before I used it for grass, because I just rinsed it out and I got leaks in it. Leaking like a sieve. We'll see what I can do with that. It's filthy too. Alright, well my bag's got, it's pretty compromised, got a couple holes in it, so I got that dog dish underneath there catching it. You know, it'll fill up, and hopefully I can get at least 2 dog dishes full of water down me. It's a 32-ounce container before that completely drips out. We'll see. I'll use the bag, maybe use the bag that the products themselves came in, you know, like the grocery bag. I might try that, but usually they're pretty crappy. So, I don't know. It's slowed down a little bit. We'll see. Okay, just like I said, this grass can bite you when you least expect. Alright, like I was saying, this grass can bite you when you least expect it. You see I got a cut, a little minor one down there. This one's a little better cut, but I wasn't even being that hard or anything with it. Just trying to grab some tinder for my tinder bundle. So, you know, whatever. I'm going to grab some of that moss right there and see what that does for me. I'm going to hold that on there. It's not really that bad. I just want to get it stopped bleeding. Well, if you think that doing this stuff one-handed is hard, try doing it no-handed, or one-handed with an injury on another. This cut's so bad, I think I'm going to have to go to the flipping doctor and get stitches. So, I don't know, we'll see. Look at how terrible it is. Oh wait, never mind. Alright, I got my Strike Anywhere matches. And no joke guys, that grass can cut you bad enough to get stitches. This is a minor cut. That sphagnum moss kind of stopped the bleeding. I think I'm going to get some more and kind of clean up my finger with it a little bit. It's a very, very minor cut. But it just, you know, it's your finger, so it kind of bleeds a little bit. But anyway, it can cut you pretty serious. You just got to go slow and be careful. I'll tell you something really quick. I was actually doing something in a field that had a lot of this grass in it. And believe it or not, one of the stalks went up my flippin' nose and made me have a nosebleed. So this stuff is, you know, nothing to mess around with. Okay, well I found a little better spot of this sphagnum moss, and I'm pretty sure that's what this is. If it's not, guys, you let me know. But I mean, as far as I know, this is it. I always hesitate to kind of say this is what this is on plants if I haven't had someone physically take me out and point to it. But you know, I've been around this stuff quite a while. I'm pretty dang sure this is what this is. Anyway, my understanding is it has trace amounts of iodine. So, and I got all this mud in it. I need a better spot. But you can feel the iodine if you've got a tender cut. It'll get in there and kind of smart a little bit. Like I said, this is a little muddier than what I wanted. I'm going to look around here. I just grabbed some. I can't remember where I harvested it from. But it was a nice piece that didn't have mud and stuff all over it. We don't get, you know, super thick bunches of it. It's a grouse drumming right there. I don't know if you guys can hear that. Alright, this is pretty darn, this is as good as it gets in my area. I'm just going to kind of throw some of that off of there. It's all nice and moist, it's not dead. I'm going to try to grind it up a little bit, get the juices flowing in it. Ooh, smart's a little, not too bad. I think I just opened a cut. I got a lot of cut on me just from that silly grass. Be careful here and not rub too aggressively. Nice. Yeah, you can feel that iodine in there. I'm gonna squeeze it in there. Yep. All right, good to go. All I'm trying to do right now with this little amount of water is I'm trying to remove that label. I want this water to boil here for a little bit and then, like I said, remove it. Now I'm going to take this just for a second and, tell you guys my opinion of this. I needed to put a couple of green or dead logs, something. If I had a rock, that'd be awesome. Being careful that it didn't pop in my face. I need to elevate this dish above the base of the coals. This has actually been in the fire for quite a while. It's probably been 10 minutes. And you can see it's getting ready to boil. And I don't have a raging fire or anything like that. But that's why you see these people selling these stoves that get the pan above the coals. I can accomplish that, like I said, with a couple of logs. But actually, a couple of logs would be probably too close together to let the fire breathe. But I mean, I could figure something out. I'm just saying. That's why you see those stoves that get your pan up off of the coals. Just want to get some of that glue out of there. I'm going to let this boil for a while. I got a couple of sticks on there to elevate it up off the coals, like I was saying. Alright, I went down to the creek and grabbed a rock and I tried to find a rock, wasn't able to find one, kind of used my finger and moved that glue around a little bit. It's pretty solid on there. I guess I'm not worried about it. Whatever. I'm going to let it, I need to get some water in me, so I need to hydrate up. Okay, well while my water's boiling, just thought I'd say that I'm not sure if I'm going to try to make a fire last all night. I'm going to definitely have a fire when it gets cold, or when it gets later tonight. When the sun goes down, it's going to get chilly. I'm going to bring my fire closer, but it's still going to be a little ways away. Like I said, this is just a huge tinder bundle. Now some folks have commented on my water's boiling already. Some folks have commented on one of my videos with another person's video, a couple other people's videos, showing how to make a fire last all night. And I like those videos. They're good videos. The people that put them out were very good people, very knowledgeable people. The problem that I had with the videos is, first of all, the logs were cut. They weren't just, go out in the woods and find a log. It's pretty tough to manage, a log this big that's just a down tree without a saw or something. I don't have a saw. The other thing that I saw in the video was it's basically you take one log, you put a couple spacers on it, and then you put another log over the top of it, and you make a fire in between, and it does like an upside down fire on the bottom log, and then also on the top log it just acts as a natural fire. And it seemed to work all night long. It burned all night long, whether it put out a lot of heat or not. It didn't look like it. It looked like it was just a very small coal base towards the end of the night. I can't remember what kind of wood he used. I have aspen. It burns very quickly. Also, the gentleman used a hammer and nails to fasten the logs to each other. I'm not packing a hammer and nails out to the woods. If I'm car camping, and if I'm just playing around, I might give it a try. But I mean, that's not my deal. I'm not into that. I ain't carrying a hammer and nails out into the woods, man. It's just not happening. So anyway, my ground is frozen as well, so I can't drive stakes in to support those two logs. I think it's a good idea, and I think that if it was summertime it might work, if I had something to drive the stakes in, or if I wanted to expend the energy and make tripods or whatever, I think it might work. But, I still don't think it'd last all night and give me heat all night long, not with the diameter of logs I'd be able to muster without a saw or an axe. If I had a saw or an axe, that'd be a different story. Alright, my water's boiling. Now, please don't misunderstand that. I absolutely love comments and stuff like that on my videos and other people's videos. It's just, you know, I know someone was going to tag me in that video again, and I've seen it. Oh, I didn't feel like making a proper pair of tongs either. Get out of there. The trick to that one too seems to be these little branches there. It kind of makes that pan so it doesn't rotate. Okay, I think you can see my bag is actually holding water. So what I think happened here, if you guys have ever made a duct tape canteen, once in a while, the one I made, I've only made one, it leaked a little bit. And a friend of mine, we took a Dave's Basics class, and a friend of mine told me, he says, just put a little silt in it and it'll stop the leak. I don't know if you can see it. I'll try to get a close-up, but you can see the silt in there, and I think that's what's happened. It's leaking a little bit, not too bad. Another thing I could do would be, my creek still has a little bit of ice on it. If it was safe and if I could chop some ice up, I could put the ice in the bag, bring it out here, and at the very least lay it down, set it in the shade somewhere, but lay it down on the plastic to keep it semi-clean. But that ice will last pretty, you know, a long time. Even though it's nice out, you know, 50 degrees right now, it's going to get colder tonight. So, all right, and I'll show you what I did with my water pan to get it to cool off a little faster. So this was just ice that was on the ground. It was, it's not creek ice. It probably would be potable to drink. I think if I had no other, if I had, you know, no resort or whatever, nothing else I could do, I'd probably drink that without boiling it. You know, it's just on land. But anyway, I'm just laying that on there, and hopefully she'll cool down here pretty soon. I'll say one thing about this dog dish. It's thick and it holds the heat. It's hard to boil water. Not hard, but I mean it takes a little bit longer to boil water, and it holds the heat really well. I've had it sitting on that ice for about 5 minutes, and it's just barely drinkable, I think. I'm gonna give it a try. The floaties, I like to get rid of. The ones, the sinkers, I don't mind so much. A little bit warmer than, I don't know, lukewarm, not hot as tea or anything like that. I just must be lucky that I have good taste in water. I know a lot of people complain about, you know, rivers and creeks and boiling water and stuff like that. I love this water. I'll suck this down all day long. No chlorine taste, nothing. Obviously there wouldn't be chlorine taste, but I mean, you know, it's way better than city water. It's the first nice weekend that we've had. People are going nuts. I'm actually a little ways back on my property. Obviously I have neighbors. Both neighbors on both sides have been shooting like crazy. There's people racing up and down our dirt road. I can hear them. I mean, it's got to be a quarter mile away. I mean, people are nuts today. So I'll show you. that little bit of water in the bottom. You know, I got plenty of water around me. If I was dying of thirst on a desert island, I'd drink it. It's got all them, you know, pieces of charcoal and stuff like that in there. I don't need to drink it. So I'm not going to. Start over. Okay guys, well it's about 7:30. The sun's setting right now. I need to hurry up and get some more wood. I've been kind of slacking today, just kind of taking it easy. I got I don't know if you can see it behind me, got my matches hung up right there in my plastic bag. I will put those inside the shelter. I mean, those would be gold. I wouldn't want to jeopardize those at all. Wrap them in the plastic, tuck them. Remember how the corners of my tarp kind of came in? Probably roll it up in something like that. Anyway, I need to get some more wood. Instead of me screwing off all day today, what a guy could have been doing is obviously gathering a lot of wood, could be gathering more bedding materials, and also prepping for tomorrow's trapping activities. In other words, making nooses, making the toggle that you need on the primitive trap. Almost every primitive trap that I do, snare or anything like that, I use a toggle system on. It's against a lot of set 'em. Right now it's not trapping season or hunting season or anything like that, so I'm not going to set any. You've seen some of my other videos where I've done it. Those are the similar traps that I would use. They're very basic and easy to prep for with the toggle system. Anyway, let me grab some more wood. If you see me with my headlamp on, I'm telling you right now, I'm bringing it. That's the only way I can really film. I will be making a primitive torch as well, or a natural material torch, but I'm bringing the headlamp out just because my camera does not film in the dark at all. So, all right. You guys hear that? I hope you guys can hear that. That's the song of the night right there. Coyotes. They're out. They've been gone for a while. They're back. I'm gonna go tell my wife to keep our little dog inside. She lets them go out all the time, you know, obviously to go to the bathroom and stuff. I'm gonna run up to the house. They're in the field. They're over there. Can't see them, obviously. There's a field over there. I know you guys can't see nothing, but they're out there. Okay, well, that was kind of exciting. I always like hearing the coyotes. I don't necessarily agree with their actions all the time, but it's just kind of a distinctive sound. I kind of like it. So yeah, I made the trek up, told the wife to keep a special eye on the dog, and came back. Well, they're back again. Normally they come through and then leave. Huh. I bet they're hungry. That's a pretty big fire. I've got it pretty warm in my shelter. It's about 85 according to my watch. That fire is going to last about 15 minutes. That's how poor this wood burns. It burns really fast, you know, pretty hot. But, you know, you would think a log, can't really see it. Yeah, that one right there. You'd think a log like that would burn 20, 30 minutes by itself, you know. Nope, not with this stuff. Okay, so I've got the fire going, obviously. I'm doing a little fire maintenance. I'm making a bed of coals, kind of moving the fire a little bit back. It's screaming hot in my shelter. I mean, it's upper 80s at least. I've been watching it very carefully, and any popping or anything has been at least a foot away from my bed. I've been paying pretty close attention to it. So I think I'm good with that. I've got some logs that I'm gonna wait for this to die down quite a bit. And then I've got some logs. I'm gonna put that little tiny fire out here real quick. But I've got some logs I'm gonna put on there, 1 or 2 at the most, and then, you know, wake up in a few hours and, you know, it'll break in the middle or whatever, and then just try to keep my fire going. I'm gonna get all suited up for bed here in a little bit. I'm probably a half hour away from just going to bed. So anyway, owl was out hooting. That was pretty cool. Coyotes twice tonight. It's been a good night. Very, very calm out right now. Very calm. Stars are out, very clear. It's just beautiful out. Absolutely beautiful. Let's take a look at what the reading says on my watch. Right there, okay, hopefully you can see that right there. It says it's 85 degrees right there. So they're back again. I've been hearing them everywhere. I don't really mind them so much, it's just they're kind of a cruel animal, to be honest with you. I do like hearing them though. It's kind of a cool sound. But I just feel sorry for the animals that they're killing right now, because it ain't a pleasant death, I know that. A lot of people's dogs and cats and stuff like that get taken. Actually, while I was filming this today, 2 dogs came up. They're my neighbor's dogs. He raises dogs, like I said, and I yelled at them to go home and stuff, but I hope they made it home. I mean, they were big dogs, but a domestic dog doesn't stand a chance against a pack of coyotes, especially a big pack. Well, good morning, guys. Couple of last thoughts on this video. This shelter worked really good. I'm pretty happy with it. The design, the open face of it really reflected a lot of that campfire back to me. The only thing I would do different would be I would make that header piece down lower so that I could maybe try to get the top of the lean-to to bend over like you see a lot of guys do. I think that'll help reflect some of the heat down to you. It's a little, you know, it's a big tarp. It's like a 10 by 9. One other thing, this grass was actually pretty comfortable. I've slept on it before, but anyway, it was pretty comfortable. It was about the bare minimum that I would ever use, you know what I mean? It compressed down pretty good. It's just a sloppy mess down by my feet. It kept me dry, so, and I did not feel the conduction from the earth. One other thing, using a fire to stay warm while you're camping or whatever is okay so long as you have some proper tools and the weather's decent enough. I personally would never, I don't like relying 100% on a fire. Having a fire, I mean, I'm always going to have a fire, but I want to make sure that if that fire goes out, I'm still going to be warm. Trying to use a hoof knife or only having a hoof knife to process the amount of wood you need for an all-night fire, it's not happening. The wood in my area is super, it's super lightweight. I mean, it goes up in an instant. Pine would even be better. Sorry about the neighbor's dogs again. Pine would even be better than this aspen. A lot of the stuff I found, I mean, it's super dry. It'll take a, you know, you can get a fire going pretty quick with it, but it's not going to last. I'm going to take you around to a couple of trees that I have close by that if I had an axe or if I had a saw, I would have been able to make this fire last a lot better than what I was able to do. I sat here, like I said last night, and watched this fire and made sure that it wasn't going to spark over at me. I think it was the perfect distance away. It was toasty warm in here while I had the fire going. As soon as the fire died down, it got cold in here. It was almost 60 yesterday. It got to 20 last night. Full disclosure, I went inside about 1 o'clock in the morning. When I had this wood burning, it would I mean, I had some decent sized chunks on there. It would last like an hour, and then I'd have to add more wood. Les Stroud is about, I was thinking about this last night. Les Stroud is about the only guy that I've seen comment about this phenomenon. And what it is there's so much work to stay warm at night. You know, we're talking survival here. This isn't camping. This is survival. Survival sucks. You can survive. I could have stayed out here and survived. That would have been not a big deal. Nobody's paying me to do this. If Discovery wants to pay me to do this, I'll do this all day long. If I can quit my job, I'll do this all day long. I have to go back to work. I need to get my sleep. I need to stay healthy. I need to keep working for my family. I've done this before. I've got nothing to prove to myself or to anybody else. I know I could do it. Whether or not I want to sit out here and feed a fire every hour or every 2 hours and not get any sleep and then be just a zombie the next day, I don't want to do that. I'm done doing that. And like I said, Les is about the only guy that I've seen address this. There was one place, I can't remember where he was at, but basically he was sleeping in a trough kind of with some wood, and he had some birch bark over him. And the amount of effort it takes to stay warm and to stay dry and everything at night, what that ends up making you do is when the sun comes out and it's nice out, you're done, man. You're spent. So you pass out and you go to sleep. Well, then it gets late in the day. Setting traps takes a lot of time and a lot of effort. Finding food takes a lot of time and a lot of effort. Pretty soon you've wasted the whole day because you've slept, because you're exhausted. Now you've only got a few hours to accomplish the tasks that you need to do. It's a vicious cycle. You lose your sleep during the night, and the next day is miserable. You have to sleep. You have to catch up sometime. That's just my 2 cents. It's survival. It ain't fun. So, I mean, it's fun getting out here, but you gotta get your sleep, man. So, like I said, it got down to 20. I woke up. I was cold. I could have put more wood on the fire. I said, screw it. I mean, I gotta work for a living. I gotta work for the man too. Let me take you to a tree over here that I found that if I would have had a tool, it would have been a great tree to put on this fire to maybe last a little bit longer. It's still poplar though. It's still aspen. It ain't gonna last, you know, a ton of time. Anyway, let's go check it out. Example of what I'm talking about. This is as good of dead aspen as you can find. It's maybe a little past prime, but either way, look. I mean, I could have maybe drop kicked this thing or something, but I mean, I might have been able to get that, but a saw or something like that would have been really helpful. It's not punky in there. That log, you put that on the fire, that's going to last 20-30 minutes in the heart of it. You know, you might be able to scoop it back together, but that's all it's going to last. It ain't going to last very long at all. Okay, here we have this topped down tree here, Widowmaker, whatever. If I could have processed that down, even though it's poor quality wood, the size of it would have lasted a long time. When you see guys like on the Pathfinder school page and stuff like that, showing you big piles of wood that are basically wrist size and diameter, keep in mind, folks, there's like 4 or 5 guys out there. They're all taking shifts on a fire watch. Now, I don't know that for 100% sure, but I mean, I can tell by the diameter of the wood that there's not one dude, they don't just pile it all on there and it lasts all night. They got fire watches. You can take, like, you know, you break it up into like 2-hour shifts or something, and you got one shift where you add wood to the fire, and bam, you're done. One guy doing this, you're a one-man fire watch. All you are is a slave to this fire. And if you don't have good proper, you know, hardwoods, it's going to make for a long night. You'll live, but it's going to make for a long night. So here's some wood that would be available to me. because, you know, all I have is a poke knife. Look at that. It's punky in there. This part that I'm holding on to will burn for a little bit. That's punky in there. It'll burn. It's firewood. Ain't gonna last very long. Got a little piece of birch here. I mean, you know that when you can grab a tree and drag it back to your campsite, if it's that light, it's all punky in here, it'll burn. You can cook with it, you can heat with it for a little bit, but you know when you grab a tree that's that light, it's not going to last very long. Okay guys, well I hope you liked that video. Everybody's area is different. For my area, it's a pain doing it this way. You know, 60 degrees during the day, 20 degrees at night. It's a lot of work. It's a lot of work. This is survival. Survival is not camping. This setup is not camping. Maybe in the summertime it's camping. Could you imagine, you know, 60 degrees at night, 80 degrees during the day, nice little fire, go to bed. It would have been beautiful. It would have been perfect. That grass bed was super comfortable actually. I mean, it was pretty darn comfortable. And it kept me dry, and I did not feel any conduction from the ground, like I said. It was, I mean, as good as a sleeping mat for me. I mean, this would have, it's all, you know, season dependent. Right now, for me, 20 degrees at night with no fire, it sucked. So, there you go. And talking about less and stuff like that, you know, I just watched Dual Survival the other night. And, you know, I'm not picking on those guys. I love them. I love, well, one anyway. One guy seems to be super skilled, and I know he's out in the woods all the time. But they're depicting a survival scenario. They always seem very refreshed. They're wide awake and bushy-tailed in the morning. I'm not sure how many of you have actually gone sleep deprived, where you've gone maybe a couple of days with very little sleep. We're talking maybe an hour or two, maybe 3 or 4, whatever. I know what happens to my body. I've experienced it before. My mind gets very foggy. I will go in and out of attentionness, whatever. I mean, sometimes I'm clear and I can do a task, and then all of a sudden it just hits you and you're just like, oh my gosh, I'm so flippin' tired. I've caught myself talking to somebody before, and in mid-sentence just stopped and said, what was I just saying? I have no idea what I was just saying. So, I mean, you can survive, but you need to catch up on that sleep. And I don't think enough is said about that. I think that one episode I was thinking about with Les, he really, you know, he did touch on it and he did talk about it, and that was good. These other shows I don't think are hitting on that, and I think that's a very important part. Alright guys, hope you liked the video. Take care.